incredibly powerful beings who would rather stay long periods of war and indulgence. Long periods of war and indulgence. And they're the generals of doing that. Baal, Moloch, Belial, Moloch particularly.
Why particularly?
Why particularly Moloch? Because he's third in command of that, of Goetia. Where do they come from?
Yes.
They come from the lower vibrational spiral, but they get pulled up because if you say, can you give me a 50-year life, which is nothing, a 50-year life of cars and women and this, I'll give this to you, then that's who they are.
What's the bargain usually involving?
That you have to come back again. All they want you to do is loop. All they want you to do is loop.
Welcome back to another deep dive into mind. In today's video, we're going to talk about lizard people, because there's a growing theory, or there's always been out there, that lizard people secretly run the world, and they disguise themselves in the government and in positions of power to harvest our energy. And it sounds crazy on the surface, like, I don't know about that, but then it kind of makes sense. I feel like deep down inside me, I feel like I know this already. So in today's video, we're going to break down and demystify these concepts so that it sounds more coherent, so that, it's not crazy and woo-woo nonsense. Let's see where these concepts originate from and see if they hold any truth to them. Now, I know a lot of historians are going to get mad in this part, but there are ancient temples that has history and information about a time that once was where these interdimensional beings who were snake-like in nature once communicated with humans and gave them knowledge and helped them with wars.
Some claim that in ancient India, a type of lizard people or lizard gods existed, and they coexisted with humans. These reptiles were quite sophisticated, and they even assisted some kings in war. Look at its skin. You are immediately reminded of a crocodile, but it is standing on two legs, and see what it's about to do. It's about to bite a man's head off alive.
In Hinduism, they call these beings Nagas, and Buddhism, they have the same concept. You got to understand, man, Buddhism is basically Hinduism. It's just a different classroom of thought, but they have the same curriculum in a sense. They have the same understanding of what the plane of reality we're in is. There are entities that are known as these things, like Nagas, snake-like entities, highly intelligent beings.
Nagas are basically, let's look at it this way, you can think of them as creatures who had a lot of evolved spiritual knowledge. Certain specific techniques of spirituality. Spirituality is not just a simple one-way track. It is like it's like a tree. The Bhagavad Gita describes spirituality as an inverted tree. Okay, so it's a tree with multiple branches. With so many, there's yoga is there, pranayama is there, tantra is there. In tantra, dakshinachar, vamachar is there, aghora is there. So many devatas are there. It is not at all a one-track thing. It depends. Why is it there? Because there are going to be different types of individuals. These are all parts. So certain specific types of spiritual progress, spiritual paths, the Nagas had absolute mastery of. They get naturally drawn towards beings who have greater power than themselves. That is why even Buddha, by the way, the Buddhist texts mention that when he was meditating, there was a Naga that came and gave him shelter.
Now, in my previous Christian paradigm, I would just say that all of this is devil worship. Like, what? Snakes and what? Huh? This has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. So in the Hindu culture, Nagas are seen as snake-like entities who possess a large amount of information, knowledge about the universe. And they're not seen as neither good or bad, right? Like in the Abrahamic point of view, you would just say anything that doesn't have to do with Jesus is the demon, is a devil. And I think it all stems from the story of Adam and Eve, where the snake was represented as the bad guy. Like, oh, he's He's the bad guy because he told them the truth, which was, if you eat from the tree of knowledge, you will become like God, right? Whereas God told them, right, God, the make-believe God, because, I think the God of the Genesis was some Sumerian God who proposed himself as the one true all God. That's why in the Bible they have a couple hiccups where they say us. God refers to himself as us because it was a group of them. It was a group of Sumerian gods that proposed themselves as the one true God of all things. The tree of knowledge was like a metaphor for like that scene in Wizard of Oz. Like, when that guy was on the projector screen and being all like, I am the mighty Oz, who dare comes into my chambers, and then the dog Toto went over and peeked behind the curtains and he saw the old man, and then they saw like, oh, you just playing like you bigger than you actually are. Like, that's what was the scenario with Adam and Eve. It was someone playing as God and then them coming to that realization that that wasn't God. The snake was actually giving them knowledge to liberate themselves. But the story, you see how the story and the narrative is depicted like that was a bad thing, that they got knowledge of themselves. It was a bad thing. And so they were casted out of heaven. They were casted out of the Garden of Eden. And now they had to go and suffice for themselves. And, it made it like the narrative was made out to seem like that was a bad thing to learn more about yourself. In Gnosticism, the lizard people or lizard entities are called archons, forces of ignorance that possess people or clone people, or, they make mischief in life to keep people at a low vibrational state so that they can drain the loose out of them. They can drain all of that emotional damage, because it's like Monsters Incorporated, like that movie, Monsters Incorporated, where like the little kid screams, they generate energy for the monster's world. It's the same thing. Like, or like, there's like this toad in the Amazon rainforest, right? And anytime the toad gets stressed out, it starts, or it feels like it's in danger or in a fight or flight response, it starts secreting poison. It's a certain type of toad though, where like their poison or their sweat is like psychedelic. And there's like tribal people that go out hunting these toads to stress them out on a stick so that they could sweat and they could just harvest their sweat, but like, imagine like that's what's happening when it comes to your emotional state. Like, these entities or these whatever, they gain something from that. They get some type of high or euphoria from your misery. Like, they get high from your sadness. Like, they love that. They eat it up. They're like, yes, give me your tears.
This reality that we're experiencing has been hijacked by a force that some ancient people call archons. The Gnostics had a completely different view of reality than religion, which is why the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Church tried to destroy them wherever they got any strength and any foothold. They ran the great library at Alexandria, which had something like 500,000 scrolls detailing the beliefs of the ancient world and the history of the ancient world, destroyed by the Roman Church. Religious establishment wanted these people destroyed because they were dangerous, because they had the truths they didn't want the people to know.
Look into Gnostic cosmology and its references to what are called archons. We find a universe of ideas that challenges assumptions about reality and spirituality. This topic is compelling not only for presenting lesser-known narratives, but also because it encourages us to think about how aware we really are of our inner potential. In manuscripts such as the Hypostasis of the Archons, there are references to entities capable of keeping the human mind in a state of forgetfulness, suggesting that physical reality might be just part of a larger backdrop. It becomes important to ask whether certain groups, visible or hidden, might prefer that most people never discover deeper spiritual truths. This line of thinking resonates with various conspiracy theories.
I felt this. I've felt this within my life. I didn't have to do any studying of philosophies or text or anything like that. Anytime you question and look for the truth, there's always opposition. There's always opposition to what is the truth. always holding on to this saying, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything, because everything, every corner in every step of life wants you to lie to yourself. And if you're afraid of perception, if you're afraid of people's opinions of you, then they're going to take you for a ride. They're going to take you for a, they're going to control you, pull your strings. But when you know the truth and you're like, wait, no, I know myself. You can't tell me this and try to get me to do something. That reverse psychology don't work on this guy. So what are the snake beings? What are the Nagas? What are the lizard people? Okay, are they here to enslave humanity? Are they here to keep us in loops forever and this prison planet? Or are they here to give us knowledge? Why are they giving us knowledge if they're trying to keep us trapped in this loop, right? And feed off of our energy? Like, whose side are they on? Why are they helping and then not helping? What's going on here? Now, I think the answer is revealed when we look within once more. There is a snake-like energy that sits at the base of our spine, dormant. And this energy is called the Kundalini energy.
What if I told you that there's a scientific explanation for how it works that was so interesting that certain three-letter agencies secretly studied it, and now we have the released documents to prove it? They mention a guy named Itzhak Bentov and how a lot of the document is based on his work, and his work explains the Kundalini process. So I went beyond the document that everyone's looked at, and I dug deep to understand the science of the Kundalini and what these agencies were so deeply interested in. First, you need to understand why it's so misunderstood. It's because when you activate it, it's kind of like having, stick with me, the power to use the Force. Okay, buddy, now you're memeing me. Listen, relax, Barb. What I mean is that you can use the power for good, or it can overrun you and turn you evil. And it's no wonder all the Christians scream, demons! Because think about it. If you were a Christian and you saw a Jedi doing Jedi shit, you'd automatically call it evil because that's what you're programmed to believe. But it can still be dangerous if you aren't ready, which is why you need to reach a certain level of consciousness before you activate it, or you might cause major psychological and physical issues. What's the purpose of this whole Kundalini shit? Well, according to our boy Bentov, the Kundalini activated is the next step in the evolution of human consciousness, specifically the next step for the human nervous system. Think of the body as a vehicle that is constantly evolving. Bentov has a model of the Kundalini process he calls the Physio-Kundalini syndrome. This model has been scientifically studied, by the way, and corroborated in books like Kundalini, Psychosis, or Transcendence. Now, Bentov's model actually works off another guy's model of the nervous system. That's Hans Sell, which in his book, The Stress of Life, he explains that when a body is filled with stresses, the nervous system is so busy handling them that its potential for attaining higher states of consciousness is super limited. Basically, there's too much jitteriness, or in kind of technical terms, too much noise in the system, which prevents the nervous system from rising to another level or evolving. And all schools of meditation emphasize the importance of calming down the body. But of course, the stresses in the system are actually energy patterns, and they have to be converted and eliminated and alchemized, whatever you want to call it, from the body.
So what I understand from this information that was presented is that we have powers within us that lay dormant because we don't recognize ourselves. We don't recognize ourselves apart from the BS. When you're constantly stressed out, your system is only focused on fixing the stressors. That's why people, their whole lives, they make their whole lives about drama or about their problems. They don't have time or the mental space to imagine or engage their creativity. So they stay stuck in memory loops. So meditation is needed. It is essential. It is quintessential. I don't even think I use that word right, but it's that. Because when you meditate, you give your system, your nervous system, time to work through what it needs to work through. With more power comes more responsibility. It's like, imagine if someone was given admin controls in a game, right? Like they were just given admin, creative mode. And, they didn't respect the game. They just start destroying stuff for the sake of their own entertainment. And then you have these higher level beings that want to keep us away from learning about the truth about these stuff, about getting to these powers, because they want to keep us contained. They want to keep us controlled. They want to keep us predictable. The way how they do that is by playing narratives, by keeping you in emotional trauma narratives of your identity and your life. And, you know, the story, the victimhood of boo-hoo, poor me, and, you know, I'm a victim of my circumstances. Because when you have that self-defeating narrative, you don't see value in your own life. You don't see value in maintaining yourself. You don't see the value in that. It's like, why do that? We're all gonna die. It's, yeah, just have fun, man. Like, why think about all of this stuff, right? There's no value to that person because they don't see value in themselves, truly. But once you start seeing the whole process and how everything is an accumulative effort, and the more value you place into your efforts, or the more value you place into your temple, the more you accumulate the right path that you want. What I mean to say is, there are people who live consciously and unconsciously. The people who don't think or who aren't aware of their path in life, they collect a lot of garbage. They collect a lot of things in life for entertainment's sake and entertainment value, and they lose the plot. There's just a bunch of garbage in their mind. And because of this, they stress out over the most banal things. They stress out over things that they bear no weight over their lives, because they're just filling their minds up with useless information or knowledge of, you know, celebrity gossip, what's going on with that, what's going on with this. And when they get stressed out, they don't know how to manage their energy. They don't know how to manage their emotions. They don't know how to manage, you know, how to transmute the energy, take that and turn it into something else. Like, they don't know how to do anything. They just sit with that and unleash it onto their family, their friends, their loved ones, their spouse. They're impulsed by this emotion. They're captivated. They're possessed by the overwhelming emotion because they didn't have that conscious management over themselves.